Jason, Mexico City says, I've noticed relatively high maintenance fees for condos and have also heard of tenants not paying them for such reasons. I imagine no one would advise not to pay their maintenance fees, but essentially, could you get a higher mortgage and own a house instead of a condo for the same monthly amount? Would you recommend buying a condo or single family house? Hearing about the pros and cons about both would be very helpful. Mahalo nui, and hoping you all stay safe and healthy. Linda's got a similar question. Why are the HOA fees so expensive? We've seen some over $1,000. Also, property taxes. What does the future look like since governments are in need of revenue? Dylan, why don't you let's just round this up here. Why don't you hit that the first piece about sort of the maintenance fee? Is it cheaper to buy a home versus a condo plus maintenance fee? How do you address that one?
So first, addressing purchase power. So, a general kind of rule of thumb you can use is every $500 that you pay towards a mortgage represents about $100,000 that you borrowed, right? So if you borrow $500,000, your mortgage is going to be around $2,500 a month, give or take with interest rates and things like that. So when you add in a monthly maintenance fee, that is going to go into your ability to qualify for a loan if you are getting financing. So if your maintenance fee is $500, that represents $100,000 in purchase value. So if you're going to buy a $300,000 condo with a $500 maintenance fee, your monthly cost is similar to buying a $400,000 house where you don't have a maintenance fee. So that's one way to look at purchasing power, and then the maintenance fee, and then just scale that up if it's $1,000 or $1,500. But the important thing to think about with a maintenance fee and condos when you're considering purchasing is, what are your lifestyle desires? Because the reality is, anybody who's a homeowner, and all of us can tell you, it's not free to live in a home. You may not incur those expenses on a monthly basis, but at some point you're going to have to paint the house. At some point you're going to have to fix the roof. At some point you're going to have to do you're going to have to pay a yard guy if you don't want to do all the yard maintenance yourself. If you have a pool, you have to pay a pool guy. So if you add in those costs as a homeowner, you may pay $200-300 a month in a yard guy, $100 a month to a pool guy. And then every 10 years, you got to paint the house so you can amortize that cost over the course of the 10 years. And so basically with a maintenance fee, what you're paying for is you're prepaying for a lot of that maintenance, and then that ongoing upkeep of your condominium complex. And then, of course, there's other things that go into it. A lot of times it includes trash service. It includes your water. It includes exterior insurance. So there's a lot of things that your maintenance fee covers that you would still have to cover as a homeowner. It's just a different way to look at it and pay for it. So you just got to put it into perspective. It's sometimes, for somebody who doesn't want to maintain a home, who, especially for a part-time resident who wants to just lock the door and leave, a condo makes a lot of sense because you don't have to worry about the maintenance, the ongoing maintenance of your home. If you have a part-time home here, you're still going to have to cut the yard and maintain that home, and maybe have a security system and have somebody come and check it once every other week to make sure there's no leaks. So there's a lot of things that you can incur cost on in a home that is very similar to a maintenance fee, only you're not mandated to pay it. In terms of tenants not paying it, to just address that, the tenant is not responsible for a maintenance fee. The maintenance fee is the owner is responsible for the maintenance fee. So a lot of times the cost of that maintenance fee is built into rent. So the rent that you pay to your landlord then will go towards his expenses, whether it be the maintenance fee, the taxes, the mortgage, and other things. So a tenant doesn't really have the option not to pay a maintenance fee. The owner is ultimately responsible.
So let's talk about those maintenance fees for a moment. Scott, there was Linda's question from Linda from San Diego. She basically said, "Hey, how come the HOA fees are so expensive? We've seen some over $1,000. How do you respond to those high maintenance fees, those HOA fees, I should say?"
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question because a lot of times it's less on the mainland. However, for me, I've sat on association boards for 15 years, and I've created condo associations and created condominiums and homeowner associations as well. So I got a lot of background on this, but there's basically three things that go into making up what your maintenance fee is going to be. For one is size of the building or size of the project. For example, if you're in a 30-unit building and you got one elevator, you got 30 people sharing in the cost of maintaining and upgrading that elevator and the parking lot, versus a 400-unit building where there's 4 elevators. Now you basically are dividing that up between 100 people per elevator. So just from that standpoint alone, the smaller the building, the higher the maintenance fee should be, just from a shared cost standpoint. Then the question comes down to number of amenities. You've got some of these buildings, Honolulu Park Place, for example, you got a bowling alley, sauna, steam room, multiple jacuzzis, pools, the whole 9 yards, restaurant even in there, and you're paying for that every month. There's more amenities. Even some of the ones in Kaka'ako have like a chef's kitchen that you can hire someone to come in and entertain for you and do all the cooking, and you have it catered out, valet parking, things such as that. So those services are obviously going to add based on the amenities. And then the last one, which I feel is actually probably the most important one, is the reserve portion. You got operating expenses per month, that your resident manager salary, your common area electric, that's all going to be the same. You can't manipulate that at all. You can't change that. But what you also have to account for is, hey, when is that elevator going to have to be replaced? When is that roof going to have to be redone? That's called a reserve study or a capital reserve account that the associations put to every month. And the interesting thing is the state of Hawaii requires minimum 50% funding to future capital improvements. So if your elevator is going to need to be redone in 10 years and it's a $200,000 expense and your association is funding to it only 50%, well, guess what? In 10 years, you're going to have to borrow from Paul to pay Peter. So you're taking from the painting project, you're taking from the asphalt repaving project to do that, which means you're either going to have an assessment coming up, or in times like these, where on Oahu, a lot of the buildings were built in the 60s and 70s, their plumbing and their elevators are coming due, which is the biggest expense you're ever going to run into with a condo. And if the association hasn't fully funded or been maintaining those funds for this buildup, then you're going to see some higher maintenance fees at this point. And I see that pretty common because 10, 15 years ago, someone says, hey, I don't want to pay for the future elevator project now. I'm not going to be around. And so they don't. There are some very well-run condo associations, and there's some very poor ones. Dylan and myself and others can sit down and go through that capital reserve account and make predictions on where your maintenance fees are going to go.
Yeah, I think, as you're saying all this, and I myself personally have bought and sold, a collection of homes through my life here in Hawaii. And, as you're saying this, I'm like, boy, I definitely would need to talk with a guy like Scott or with Dylan before I go and do all this stuff, because you guys have bought and sold. You guys basically have helped sell or buy condos, umpty-ump. I've done a handful. You guys have done dozens, if not hundreds. So I definitely, that's folks, you definitely want to get onto the Living in Hawaii website, get up for the newsletter. We have a form that says, can I let us help you find a home in Hawaii? These are the guys that I'm connecting you with when that form gets filled out. You connect with Dylan for the Big Island and for the neighbor islands, and you got Scott for Oahu. And I'm just really, really happy to have you guys here with us.